this is the future us. From an hour later that we forgot to say, subscribe this, you freaking beautiful person, you, and like and comment. We're going to warp back into our...
So kind of the big news of the week is the ceasefire and the failure of the ceasefire that Hamas agreed to. Hamas kind of met with the Egyptian and Qatari delegation for it was an Egyptian Qatar proposed ceasefire. They met, I guess, discussed it over, and Hamas had agreed to it.
Yeah.
This was on Monday. The proposal included a ceasefire, a complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza, an exchange of captives, so the Israeli hostages for from Palestinian prisoners, reconstruction of the territory, and the lifting of Israel's kind of blockade and their stranglehold on the Gazan enclave. There were supposed to be 3 phases, each phase lasting 42 days, where phase 2 would have seen the Israel withdraw from Gaza.
Yeah. There's a lot of misinformation going around saying that Israel did not know about this.
They knew about it.
They did know about it.
They knew about it because they promptly...
the state of Israel said that they didn't know about it at first, which is a lie because they were working with the United States.
Yeah, Anthony Blinken, even the Secretary of State, was on board with this. It looked like everyone was really kind of optimistic. A lot of people in Gaza were kind of hoping for this because this was on the eve of something we're about to talk about, the assault on Rafah, but this was kind of on the eve of that major invasion. So this would have been great. Hamas agrees to it. It's a proposal by a third party. American government's kind of on board with it, and everybody seems to be okay with it except for the Israeli War Cabinet. They unanimously denied the agreement. They said, I forget the exact quote.
They said it was too soft.
Yeah, too soft.
And
it was too
very biased towards Hamas.
Yeah, they said it was just something that was so far out of the realm of something they would ever agree to. So, yeah, I don't know. Hamas officials have now said the ball is in Israel's court, basically, of they're ready to deal. They're ready to come to a table, and it's obviously Israel can call this off and get their hostages back whenever they want. But of course.
Here's the thing. We also speak from outside of Israel. We don't speak for Palestinians, but we speak, in the perspective of what the Palestinians are going through. However, there are a lot of people in Israel, and not a lot of people know this from outside of Israel, that there are a lot of people right now protesting in Israel in front of government buildings to stop this, to accept the people of Israel want this accepted.
Getting a lot of pressure from just a lot of pressure from the Israeli public. The Israeli public is really turned on
and don't get it wrong, it's not because they don't want a genocide. It's because of the hostages. Yeah. Right? But people are starting to see through the bullshit.
Some of them don't want a genocide.
Oh, I know, but I think it's 20%. But yeah, some people are seeing through, BB's bullshit because they realized hey, if this thing was about hostages, Hamas just accepted to let all the hostages go because for them, they want a ceasefire to get their relatives back. And it's not because Palestinians are dying. Yeah. It's because of the hostages. Yeah. And then, but this is also, I mean, it's bad that they're now what we're about to talk about with the assault on Rafah, but it's bad politics on the Israeli state part because now they're kind of exposing themselves to the Israeli mainstream news, to the people of Israel, that what they want is not the hostages. They don't care about the hostages.
Yeah, Israel's position is becoming more and more clear because, kind of like what I just mentioned, Hamas says, "Yeah, here, take your hostages," and Israel says, "Nah, we're good. We'd rather kill you than take our hostages. We'd rather kill you than rescue Jews."
Yeah, pretty much.
That's kind of what it comes down to. Israel doesn't really give a shit about the hostages, not when there's Palestinians to be murdered. Yeah,
hopefully this wakes up some more Israelis, and maybe they could pressure some kind of ceasefire. Because, like I said in the very beginning, episode 3 or whatever, when we started talking about this, when this whole thing broke out, October 7th or whatever, the only way this is going to stop is from inside of Israel. Realistically, I mean, the American government is not doing shit, as we can all see. The American government has stated they don't, affiliate themselves or condone now that they're trying to invade Rafah. But they still are not doing anything. So that's the problem: is who is going to stop Israel but the people inside of Israel? So maybe something happens. I quite doubt it. But anyways.
Yeah, I just was, while you were talking, I was looking up some quick polls. I was curious to see what the public opinion of Netanyahu is in Israel. Apparently only 15% of Israelis want Netanyahu as prime minister currently after the war. His approval rating, depending on kind of where you're at, is in the low 20s to the low 30s, depending on kind of the source. Yeah. It looks like he's just not very popular. I mean, to compare that to Biden's approval rating, I don't remember what his most recent numbers are,
40 something percent.
I thought it was a lot lower than that.
It probably is. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, he's currently at. Oh no, you're right. He's at 39. He's averaging around 39. So like Biden, everybody hates Biden. Biden has like almost a 10% lead on Netanyahu, to give some perspective to how much Israelis seemingly are kind of fed up with Netanyahu.
But you also have to understand that Netanyahu is also hated from the right. There's people that are even farther right than him. They're just like,
saying, finish it off. Like, I don't know a whole lot about Israel's like their political like electoral system, but there was like to reach a coalition government a couple of years ago, because hasn't Netanyahu basically like not usurped that position, but he kind of like forcefully forced himself
through a coalition.
Through a coalition.
It was through a coalition,
but he never had a majority support, I think, in any facet. I think there was a guy who had more votes than him, but through a coalition tactic. This is from like 45 years ago. I don't really remember.
But even through like the left, even people to his left are really not that much more left wing on this policies toward Palestinian Gazans, right? Like even the people to his left still believe in the genocide of the Gazan people. They still think they should bulldoze down Gaza. That's the problem. Is like it's like, oh, people don't like Netanyahu. But the other options that are on the table believe that the same thing as Netanyahu. It's kind of gives me like the vibe of like, oh, everybody hates Republicans or everybody hates Democrats. But when you flip the switch and turn to the other political party, they believe it's pretty much the same exact thing, except it's gays dropping bombs and not, the conservative, Mike Hawk. That was a little pun there.
No, I got it. It looks like it was 2021, 2022 when he got his re-election, so I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, how long has that guy been in power, man? Jesus, it seems like forever. It almost seems like how long Putin's been in power.
Yeah, I don't think it's been quite that long, but it's been a long time.
Speaking about like Israeli politics, I wanted to kind of take a perspective from American Congress people. Yeah, so we're gonna show you a bit from basically a perspective from an American congressman and what he thinks on the ceasefire. And
this is from American Congressman Brian Mast out of Florida.
Now that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire, do you think Israel should agree?
I think Israel should go in there and kick the shit out of them. Just absolutely destroy them, their infrastructure, level anything that they touch. Clear enough?
Congressman, the world is calling for a ceasefire. You used to say Hamas won't agree to a ceasefire. Hamas had just...
Everybody in the world is wrong.
Hi, Brian Mast from Florida.
No CIA.
I know what's up.
William Burns has been there negotiating.
You know what? If there's an American held or somebody else being held, there should be every expectation that Americans come and kill them as well. If there's an American being held, we should go kill the people that are holding them.
Why are you so hateful?
It's not hateful.
It is, because my people are Palestinian. You're killing my people with our tax dollars. And you saying that everything should
associate themselves with terrorists. They shouldn't vote terrorists into office.
Civilians living shouldn't just be around terrorists.
90% of it's just civilians.
Yeah.
Lions Den, Fatah, all those terrorist organizations.
We say to you every single time, majority of people are children. They're
Exactly.
the ones that are bearing the brunt.
Just because you say it doesn't make it true. Which is what you
Just willfully just refusal to understand facts,
I literally
a reality.
don't believe a word that you say.
Well, I think that you are a heartless, soulless, cruel man. And today is Holocaust
From you,
Remembrance Day
I'll
for
take
my
that as a
people,
compliment.
my people, Jewish people. And I am saying, as a Jew, we said never again, and it's happening
Thank you.
now. We say
you are so hateful and disgusting.
Yeah.
This man, in my eyes, this is a fucking war criminal. Like, right?
I mean, yeah, he's basically just calling for the extermination of civilians, or he's calling for just the murder of civilians.
And it kills me on the inside that he turns around and we have factual data that says, hey, 15,000 children have died.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people that have died in this conflict, they are innocent civilians. They are children. They are elderly people. They're people that cannot fight back. They have nothing to do with Hamas. In fact, a lot of people, a lot of polls have been taken over, the past 20 years, and it shows that Hamas is actually more popular in the West Bank than they are in Gaza. And so now you're doing collective punishment on children, on fucking children.
Yeah.
Why the Met Gala is going on and everybody's looking at that.
Yeah, I hate
that shit. And he just turns around and is like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Based upon what? So you're just making up your own facts, and then you're just going to exterminate, 50,000, 100,000 people, 1 million people based upon what you believe to be true.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, with the U.S. supplying weapons and arms, in my eyes, these American politicians should also be subjected to war criminal accusations and should be fucking in jail.
Yeah. While you were speaking, I just pulled this up. I saw this earlier on Al Jazeera. It's from 2 hours ago. It's kind of just the most recent numbers, according to who kind of knows, because we don't really, the numbers are incredibly inaccurate now that the infrastructure of Palestine is completely kind of crumbled.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So as of, this is reporting from Al Jazeera as of 2 hours ago, the Palestinian dead is numbered right around 35,000, but with more than 8,000 missing. And I think those numbers are super soft because there's just so many people unaccounted
these are conservative numbers.
And that includes more than 14,500 children, which is more than like about 40% of that number, if my math serves. And even in the West Bank, there's 500 dead with 125 children.
Why is nobody talking about this?
Yeah.
500 is not a small number.
Yeah. So
500 is not a small number.
The West Bank is supposed to be kind of off limits to this conflict, and it's obviously not.
Yeah.
And that's just dead. So injured, that number is almost pushing 80,000 in Gaza. That's 80,000 injured, with more than 5,000 injured in the West Bank. So these are pretty crazy numbers.
We're looking conservatively. We are looking at casualties above 100,000. We're looking at casualties about 110,000 on the conservative side. And so that then by casualties, I mean anybody that is injured or anybody that is dead. And these are people that are just counted. They haven't, when we finish this whole bullshit, right? This whole criminal act that Israel is doing, watch those numbers rise a lot higher, because then the people can actually go in and be like, okay, where are the missing people? We got to count the actual number of people that have died. And I guarantee you it says 35,000, but it's going to be well over 50, in my opinion.
No, I think you're totally right. I think that's probably not unrealistic. Knowing what we now know,
yeah.
I think the numbers are slowing down. I mean, remember they were kind of going steady up, but this is kind of what I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, which is I think the people that are counting them are dying.
Yeah.
So I think that's why these numbers are slowing down. I think the infrastructure, the number of journalists, the number of hospitals that was kind of keeping track of these things are all in such a state of destruction.
How many hospitals are left?
Yeah, that's my point. It's
how many are left?
I think that there's probably a lot more people dying or dead in the ruins of what was formerly Gaza that aren't being counted. So I think that once the dust settles and kind of like investigators actually go in, just like after the Holocaust, they kept finding like mass graves and the records of the incinerations from like the different Treblinka and Auschwitz and Sobibor or whatever. I think we're going to find very similar things.
Yeah.
There's much more mass graves, much more piles of bodies just like stuffed everywhere in the ruins of Gaza. And I think that those numbers are going to just balloon to just insane amounts.
In the meantime, we also need to be hyper-focused on getting accurate data and hyper-focused on not spreading misinformation. Because I also have seen like things popping out. I mean, I'll say it even as ourselves. I threw out a story on Instagram when Israel supposedly attacked Iran, saying they struck these 8 cities, just to find out that wasn't true, right? And so I took the post down because like that's misinformation. There was problems between Israel and Iran. I don't even know if they had a proper strike, whether they called it or not. They said they had an explosion in one of the cities.
I hadn't heard about this.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard about this.
There was an explosion in.
When was this?
What do you mean? Remember when Israel?
Oh, I thought you were saying this was like the recent.
No.
I
This
misunderstood
is
you.
back
Okay.
in the day.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, there was an explosion, and was it Isfahan? And Iran didn't claim. I don't believe that Iran claimed it to be Israel, but I think that was just strategically placed and strategically said so further problems did not arise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have to be careful with what we actually post. I'm just saying that to leftists. I see a lot of things being posted and then things being taken down. Let's, as Tyler was saying a couple episodes ago, I think sometimes it's great instead of letting it sit back and all the information coming in more and more to actually give accurate data and accurate facts instead of just, within the day, like, oh, this had to happen. But then later on be like, not exactly how it actually happened.
I think there's a benefit to like reporting news quickly, but I think that you also have to recognize that you're going to get a lot of things wrong when you do that.
Take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Information comes way too fast and there's so much, and it's a world away with shoddy infrastructure at this point. So like these things are being reported on as if they're like set in stone fact. And it's like, that's certainly not the case. And we have always done what I consider to be a pretty good job of like, doing our best to read multiple articles, get as much information as we can before we bring something.
And if we get something wrong, we will,
and we've done a pretty good job also doing retractions for the most part. And we also kind of,
no take backs.
Yeah, we don't report on this stuff as soon as it happens. Like we're not uploading daily, right? So like we will recap the stuff that happened in the last like week or so. So we have the benefit of kind of not rushing to it.
Sometimes it happens like the day of.
Yeah, so some of the stuff does happen.
Like we're gonna go off what we have.
And that's just the way it goes. If something happened today, something happened today. Like what we're going to talk about next is much more recent than that's the previous ceasefire story. So I guess that leads us right into this.